All right, so simplifying our expressions. 2n minus 3n would be negative n. Negative 4 plus 3b plus 2 plus 5b. Make sure you're combining your like terms. Make sure you're looking at the sign that's coming in front of it. Almost always, the variables are going to be done first. So what's positive 3b plus a positive 5b? 8b. Now you have the negative 4 plus 2, which is negative 2, so it becomes 8b minus 2. We don't put minus a positive 2 or anything like that. Number 3, what's the only thing we can do to simplify? Distribute the 9. So 9 times w is 9 times the negative 5? Correct. So 9w minus 45. Number 4, distributing a negative. So if I distribute a negative throughout the parentheses, what's everything going to change to in the inside? It's going to change to its opposite sign. Correct. So it's a negative 10 being taken times b, which is a negative 10b. A negative 10 times a negative 12. Two negatives make a positive 120. Number 5, what's the only thing you can do? Yep, so 3 times negative x is, and positive 3 times positive 4, positive 12. Number 6, distributing that 5 to everything. So 5 times 6, 5 times the negative w. So 30 minus 5w. When we are doing multi-step equations, one of these two are probably going to have to be done in every single equation. Sometimes you're going to have to distribute, and then you're going to have to join like terms. Sometimes you're just going to have to join like terms. All depends on the question. Evaluate each expression, and it's giving us a value for those variables. Remember, when you are replacing a variable with a number, to always put it inside what? Always put it inside parentheses. So in the first one, we have 28 minus, instead of a, we have 5 plus 4 times 5. What's the first thing we're going to do in the order of operations? Multiplication. Now, before we do this, that's a really long, drawn out question, correct? Could we have joined some like terms to make that question easier for us and faster? Go back to the original question. What could you do right here? What's negative a plus 4a? Wouldn't this be a faster, easier question to do? Agreed? So if we can join like terms ahead of time, you're going to simplify that question for yourself. What is 3 times 5? 15. And 28 plus 15? 43. 8 and 5 is 13. Carry a 1. 20 plus 10 is 43. Could you do the same thing in question 8 and combine some like terms? What would 8 plus x minus 7x be if you combine the x's?
8 minus 6x.
Everybody agree? So my question would be 8 minus 6, and instead of x, we'd have negative 3. Now what? Multiply. Negative 6 times negative 3. Or I could have said a subtraction sign, and 6 times negative 3 would be a negative 18, so I would have had 8 minus a negative 18, correct? Do I really want to have 8 minus negative 18 if I can change subtraction to addition, change the sign of the second number? I'd still end up with this. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? If I go back here, and if you said that this is 8 minus, and you did 6 times negative 3, you'd get a negative 18, correct? Change subtraction to addition, change the sign of the second number. 8 plus 18 is 26. Or we could have just said 8 plus 18 from the get-go. Question number 9. Do you want to substitute -2 for n, or do you want to distribute real quick? Okay, so let's distribute this 3 to everything inside parentheses. What is 8n times 3? 24n. I'm really saying 8n plus 8n plus 8n. So I'd have 24n plus, what's 1 times 3? Or 1 times 3, rather. There's 3. Replace n with -2. So 24 times a -2. 24 times -2 is? And a -48 plus 3. -45. Number 10. What do you want to do first? Distribute or replace your variable? Okay, so if I'm going to distribute a -1, I'm really doing 2 properties here. I'm doing the distributive property, but I'm doing the multiplication property of -1. So everything's going to turn to the opposite. So a -1 times 17 is -17. And a negative times +3y is a -3y. Three times 6. Change subtraction to addition, change the sign of the second number. It's going to be a -17 plus a -18, or negative what?
35.
-35. Questions there? It does not matter if you replace your variable ahead of time or if you join like terms and then replace the variable. Okay, into your foldable, please. Steps for solving multi-step equations. 1. Clear the equation of fractions and decimals. Most of you hate fractions and decimals anyway, right? So if you can clear the fraction or clear the fraction out of the equation or clear the decimal out of the equation, you'll be allowed to deal with whole numbers and you don't even have to worry about those fractions being in there. Okay? So we'll spend a couple of days working on that. 2. You have to have the parentheses gone. So you're going to have to use the distributive property in order to rid yourself of all parentheses. Once parentheses are gone, combine your like terms on each side of the equation. Then you're going to do undo addition and subtraction and undo multiplication and division. So we're really going to get back to, once we get to step 3, you should be at a 2-step equation after that step. So then you're going to do undo addition and subtraction and undo multiplication and division like we did with 1-step and 2-step equations. So in this first one, if I have parentheses, I have to clear them. The only way to clear this parentheses is to distribute that -3 throughout the parentheses. So what is a -3 times x? What is a -3 times a -1? And bring down the 9 that has not been used. Now, before we proceed, we need to combine like terms. So on the left or the right-hand side here, do you see how we have 2 constants that can be added together? What is a +3 plus a +9? Now, we are back to having a 2-step equation like you had for homework last night. What are we going to do now to get x on the side by itself? Subtract 12. 15 minus 12 is?
3.
And that's going to equal negative 3x. Now what are you going to do to get x on a side by itself? Divide by negative 3. So positive 3 divided by negative 3 is negative 1 equals x. Can I still take my answer, plug it back in, and see if I got the right answer? Sure I can. Let's actually put negative 1 where x is in the second step that we did here. What is a negative 3 times a negative 1? Positive 3, and positive 3 plus positive 3 is 6, and is 6 plus 9, 15? Then we know we are correct. I didn't even have to plug it into this original one. I could plug it into where I already distributed the negative 1, or the negative 3 too. In this next one, negative 2y plus 5 plus 5y. There's no fractions or decimals, so we don't have to worry about doing that. There's no parentheses, so we don't have to worry about using the distributive property. However, we do have like terms, so we need to join those like terms. What's a negative 2y plus a positive 5y? And then the plus 5 doesn't get joined with anything on the left, correct? That's going to equal the 14 on the right. So all we're doing is just combining like terms here. Have you done that? So by combining the like terms, do you see how we're back to a two-step equation again? So how are we going to get y on a side by itself? So 3y is going to equal 14 minus 5 is 9. And next, divide both sides by 3, so y is going to equal 3. In your foldable, there is a typo. Bear with me for a second. I want you to change that typo to let's equal 104 here. Add equals 104 to that first equation. Do we have fractions or decimals to get rid of? Do we have the distributive property to do? Okay, what can we do? Combine like terms. So I want to take those two constants, 72 plus 4, and combine those. What is 72 plus 4?
76.
Bring down the minus 14c, and the equals 104. You should be back to a two-step equation. Now what? Okay. What are we bringing down? Negative 14c. Don't forget to bring the subtraction sign down as a negative sign. 104 minus 76 is? I'm sorry? 28. And the last step? C is going to equal negative 2. Question number 2. What's the first thing we're going to do there? Combine like terms. 2b, take away one of those b's. Just b. How are you going to get that b on a side by itself now? So negative 13 plus 10 is? And we're done, because b was already on a side by itself. Okay, how about question number 3? Distribute the 5 times y. 5 times negative 3 equals Okay, now what?
Add 15.
5y will equal
34.
now what?
Divide by 5.
Y is going to equal 5 goes into 34 how many times? 6 times 5 is 30. So 34 minus 30 is how much? 4 over. So 6 and 4/5. What do you think so far? Good, till you saw a fraction in the next question. I want that question to equal 5 1/3. So let's rewrite this so it looks a little clearer as to what we're dealing with. If you're going to clear the equation of fractions, get a common denominator. So what is that common denominator going to be for 6 and 3? 6. So I can leave the denominator of 6 alone. I just need to change the others. What are you doing to 3 to get 6? Times 2, so 2 times 2 would become 4 6, and 1/3 is going to become 2 6. Now, in a question like this, couldn't you just proceed and subtract 7 and 4/6 off of each side? Oops, that's not what I want to do. Sorry, I want to extend this page. Can you see that a little bit better? Really, I could just say minus 7 and 4/6 minus 7 and 4/6, correct? Oh, add, thank you. So I'd have x over 6 on one side. On the other side, what's 2 6 plus 4 6? A whole. So that would add 1 here. 5 plus 1 is 6 plus 7. That wasn't so bad, right? Now how would I get x on the side by itself?
Times 6.
Multiply both sides by 6. X is going to equal, and we're done. If you want to get rid of decimals or get rid of fractions, for example, in question number 5, I'm going to rewrite this again so it's a little bit bigger. Do you agree that this 1/4 is supposed to be a gigantic multiplication question times what's inside the parentheses? Okay, so that's kind of glued together, right? So, let me just go through this real quick. So if I want to get rid of this 1/4, I'm going to multiply times 4 here and make it times 4 here. So then I would be distributing a 1 on the left-hand side, and I made the other side times 4. I made it 4 times bigger for the number I'm going to multiply times, and I'm going to make it 4 times bigger to the other side of the equation. I treated both sides of the equation the same. I got successfully rid of that fraction in that question. Okay, so just a taste of it. We'll continue with this on Monday. Have a great weekend.